Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele and June and June Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, it's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support. With Michele, who's really short. We'll have a ball. With June, who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support. With Michele, who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause.
Welcome to the award-winning Live Support Podcast. I'm your host, June Colson, here with Michele with one L, Trisha's sister, Rhonda Colson, Corey's friend, who at the very beginning, Michele, you were frozen with the prettiest smile, and just a cheesy grin. And we are so excited. We are so excited about this episode today and nervous because Michele is, she's got the Max Headroom syndrome. If you guys remember
freezing,
do you remember Max Headroom? Of course she does. Okay. So
yeah,
Max Headroom.
I know who
when I was growing up. Yeah, you do? Okay.
Fucking
so you totally have the Max Headroom. Like you freeze and then your lips move. Because that's the kind of day that we've been having at the Live Support Podcast, y'all. This morning we were trying to record. I was trying to get my phone on Do Not Disturb. My boys were texting me like crazy to give me their Christmas list of items that they want before Christmas. But Michele, you gave me a great piece of advice. When they went over 3, what was I to tell them?
That Jesus only got 3 gifts, so they shouldn't have.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
did you get it?
That's it.
Or am I frozen?
You're still a little delayed. It's great. It's great advice, even if it comes late. Okay, so she said that Jesus only got 3 gifts, so it's biblical for me to tell them to stop at number 3. Like they can't have more than 3 gifts. So, but my stress is that they're not asking for Christmas gifts for Christmas. They're asking for gifts before Christmas. And then they're rotten children who are going to whine and complain when they won't whine and complain. I just get that guilty feeling that they don't have anything to, to open on Christmas Day. So it's on me. It's on me for making them so spoiled. Do you spoil your kids, Michele? What are they getting?
All my children can open their eyes on Christmas morning.
That's a gift, just the gift of life that you gave them.
That's right. I gave them life, and that's all they need. And now they can go and share it as much as they want.
The gift that keeps on giving. That's precious. That's absolutely precious. So yeah, we're stressing a little bit. We so far have been able to get through season 1 and season 2 without any major technical difficulty. And we've prayed and we're trusting that we're going to get through this interview today. I think it's going to be great. You guys just hang with us. If Michele freezes or she disappears, just know that she's with us in spirit. Okay? She'll be with us this whole episode in spirit. But we don't want to delay. We want to go ahead and get our friend out here right now. Oh gosh, Michele usually does the introductions. Michele, are you with us? Can you do it?
Well, yeah, I can do it. You can hear me, correct?
I can hear you. Michele, we can hear you. Talk to us.
Okay. Our guest today has inspired thousands. She is a certified master empowerment coach, a keynote speaker, an award-winning comedian, mentor, and author. She's created the Cubbyhole. It's a safe place for inspiring people through humor, coffee chats, and teachings online and in person. We love her, and so will you. So let's welcome to the Live Support Podcast, Marlo Rutz.
Hi, girls. Hi. How fun to be with you guys, my girls.
Oh my goodness. So excited to have you on here.
Oh.
As you see, you're gonna have to look at my big bobblehead during this interview. And then there's Michelle. There's Michelle's frozen smile.
I love it. I love we weren't sure if she was frozen, and she just freezing, like imitating the freeze. But I'm over here singing. You're oh, look at there. I should have worn my pink shirt.
Michelle right now is showing us the cover of Marlo's book,
I
God
figured if I'm gonna
Sprinkles.
freeze.
Yes, let's get the God Sprinkle book in there. So you liked our song, Marlo? Do you like our?
I'm over here going, let's port with Michelle, who's really. I'm entertaining myself back here backstage with Michelle, who's really short.
Well, I will tell you that theme song started out as there was a snow day, and I was really bored, and I drove to my sister's house, and I was like, "Hey, I want to make a funny theme song and send it to Michelle because they're musicians, they're bluegrass musicians." And so I went and sat in her office and I wrote some lyrics and they helped me record. Michelle made fun of me because the original version, Marlo, was like 47 minutes long. It was my free bird. I was just doing a guitar solo.
You've got stuff to say.
It
We're gonna
was.
put it in the introduction. I love that. That's a great intro, you guys. I love it because it's so you. It tells a story. It's awesome.
Well, I sent it to Michelle and I was waiting for her to be like, "What are you doing?" She was dying laughing and she goes, "No, seriously, we're using this. We have to use this." It started out as like just a funny kind of, whatever, and play on the fact that we're always talking about how tall I am and how short she is. And the more I said Michelle is short, especially in the longer version, it was so many lines about her being short. And her son was kind enough to edit it down to usable material. So
you know what I love so much about it is in today's culture, one of the things I'm really appreciating is authenticity. Just being authentic and showing up as you and your personality styles and that's what I like. It was really good. I love it, you girls, and I love you guys. I love being here with you. How fun to just hang with some girlfriends and chat.
Oh yeah, and you've been hanging out with a lot of people lately. I was watching you this morning on Barn 45. I was listening to you and Nazareth last night on his show. And so, yeah, we're super thrilled that you were able to make time and to come hang out with us. Unfortunately, with Michelle's lag, you're probably just going to have to do most of the interview with me and we'll see what happens.
I love the time I got to spend at your house.
Yes.
I love the time I got to spend at your house there, June, just sitting there with your two puppies and Reggie and watching them steal the bacon and have spaghetti with you at your dinner table and anytime. Hey, I love being with both of you. But if one of you, the internet goes, well, we can always chat.
Yeah, so that's so Reggie who makes an appearance on here.
What'd you say?
Reggie say it again, Michelle.
The show must go on.
And wait for it. No, but so Marlo stayed at my house, Michelle, and I got up and I made breakfast for her. And I think I did the cream cheese crescent roll, like casserole, and I fried bacon and maybe had some fruit or something. And she had breakfast. We were both getting ready to leave. And so I wasn't with her as she was eating. And she comes in and she goes, "So June, did you eat already?" And I was like, "No, why?" And she said, "Because your plate of bacon is empty."
Oh, my bad puppies. You know what? And I took a picture of both of them sitting there and they had this look on their face like, nope, wasn't me. I'm like, somebody did it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it was so, they look so innocent yet guilty all at the same time. Precious babies.
We love our babies. So Marlo, so our podcast is called the Laugh Support Podcast. And basically we've just enjoyed 2 seasons of talking to people who use comedy and humor, sometimes as comedians, sometimes as speakers. And for you, gosh, you kind of run the gamut of all of it. And, Michelle and I, our relationship started out as her being the first person to really be supportive of me as I got into comedy. And so we thought, in our podcast, we want to know from our guest, who has been there on the journey for them. So when you think back to when you first started doing comedy in whatever form it was in the original, when you originally started doing comedy, Talk to us about maybe who you think of that comes to mind that was there for you right out of the gate as you were getting started in this crazy world of comedy.
Oh, well, I love that. And I love your story together. And June, I've loved watching your story. I was there I was at the beginning watching you walk into CCA and taking a chance on God. And it's such a beautiful story yourself. I would say there's a few different people that come to mind. First is, well, my mom and my grandpa, but I was just sharing last night with Nazareth that when I was younger, I never knew that being a comedian or a speaker was a calling. I used to put on skits in either in my grandparents' living room with their flowered couch with the plastic on it, or in my mom was a single mom. She would have family come over and she would say, get out there and do that skit, that Miss America skit. I would do this little mock Miss America show, joking about trying to walk in heels and having lipstick all over my face. And I say that they were definitely my support and my encouragement. And I realized that it was in those moments where I realized how medicinal laughter is. Because my grandpa, I know there was a lot of pain in our family. A lot of different people were probably experiencing hidden pain. And he would get his hanky out of his back pocket and twirl it around his hand and wipe his nose, his Lebanese nose. And when his tears, I refer to them as a standing ovation. That's how I knew. I had struck a chord somehow. And then, so my mom, she'd give me this was her encouraging way of telling me to get out there and be a comedian as an adult. Once I knew God was calling me to do that, she'd say, Marlo, get out there and do that before I die. Pressure. And then, so she always just laughed so hard. As a matter of fact, my woman from Samaria joke, I told that to her at an Applebee's, and she laughed so hard. She's like, Marlo, that's God. So she's always been so supportive. And then my family, my husband has just always, for years and years and years early in our marriage, he just said, Marlo, I wish you would let the world see what I see, just to be, the authentic version of us. Right. And then my friend Janice, my BFF, who's always said, girl, come on, enough already, do it. So I've had a lot. I'm very, very thankful.
Wow. That's awesome.
Support.
Yes. Yeah. So your husband, in my story, I talk about how it took me forever to tell my husband because, he has such a serious job, and this was so out of the box and what seemed like out of nowhere when it was something God had been working on me with for a little while. And I kept telling God, he's going to say, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Tell Ken Davis that. And then he was eventually like, oh, I get it. I love that story.
Well, yeah, no, he said, I don't get it. He did say, I don't get it. And I was like, God. He said, but I see it. Yeah. He didn't get it, but he sees it. And that's how you just referred to your husband, David. You said that he could see that. He wanted people to see what he saw in you.
Yes. He sees it in you, because it's when you are with the people that you get to be the most authentic with, that authenticity comes pouring out. And, that was one of the notes I wrote for Barn 45 today, but I didn't share it, is that's the refinement process with God. I picture this, those Campbell's soup commercials where there's the snowman and he melts, and underneath the snowman is a little boy that just because of the Campbell's soup. That's what I picture when I think of that layer that we have around us, and God melts that. And then that authentic version of us comes through. And then when the authentic version of us comes through, we get to shine and glorify for God. And so we wouldn't be able to do that without people trusting us and telling us, I see it just like your husband did.
Yeah. So as far as authentic self, in comedy, you hear a lot of people talk about finding your voice when you get up and you first get started. Did you feel like you were being your authentic self when you first began doing comedy, or did you feel like there was that journey?
It was a it was a journey. It was a journey. And, there's so many different times that I get to show up, and I constantly have to go through that refinement process of getting to the authenticity. Even being on Barn 45, we just started that officially in the fall. And you can get that imposter syndrome, because I'm like, I'm a funny, quirky, I love to have fun. I love to be quirky. That's how I see God, and I thought, oh gosh, what if that doesn't fit in? And doing comedy, oh my gosh, yes, imposter syndrome. For sure. Like this is for, and I know you went through this too, June, but it's like he calls you to be a comedian, and then you walk into CCA with the first time, you're like, okay, they're comedians. I'm not a comedian. Well, the world doesn't say, God says, and he keeps nudging you in your heart and your spirit. And I did feel like an imposter and a fraud at first, but so to find my voice, I wanted to do it like everybody else. I learned, like, I know there's a formula to comedy, and there's storytelling, and I almost felt ashamed of being a storyteller, but I just found that God made it very clear to me that I am, I do tell stories within my comedy, and that's all part of it. So it does take a little while to find your voice, but man, June, I know you get this. When you find that voice that God gave you, there's no stopping it. You just want to just keep doing it and going on and on. And so I love it. Yeah. It makes a big difference.
I was able to spend some time in Franklin, Tennessee with our friend David Pendleton and his wife, Linda, at
that's where I want to move. I want to move to Franklin, Tennessee. I love
it. Yes. It's such a beautiful area. And we were at this thing called ACT. It's Artists in Christian Testimony. And one of the speakers, the whole title and the whole conversation he had was Jesus was a storyteller. And a lot of times, and that just hit me so hard because, like you said, you as a storyteller, sometimes it felt like you weren't a real comedian because you weren't set up, punch.
Yeah.
You were telling stories that had humor throughout, and then he just went into just all of the things that Jesus, and it was like a crazy percentage. It was like 80% of the conversations written that Jesus said or something was a story. He was telling a story. In the Bible, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that so much of when he spoke was a story. But I remember hearing you talk about the imposter syndrome, and for our listeners who may not have ever heard that phrase before, can you just give a little bit of what that means when you feel that imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I would. Yes, absolutely. I love answering that question. I'm going to go back to saying that David would always assure me about the storytelling with Jesus. The same thing that he didn't give the facts. He gave the stories, the parables, and that was very encouraging to me. That really, really was part of what set my heart free on that. Imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh, it's a powerful notion. If people don't know what it is, imposter syndrome is when you feel like you are just inches away or one story away or one flub up away from somebody, quote unquote, being on to you, knowing that it's all a lie, it's all a sham, that what you're doing. Because when we step out and do things in faith, there's fear. And so what we can do is we can start collecting evidence that fear the great acronym with fear is false evidence appearing real. And it's in that false evidence where we can tell ourselves that we are an imposter, we don't belong. In June, so many people retreat. They retreat when the minute they feel that. I mean, obviously there's discernment, and you know if it's not a God calling, and you have to sort that out with God. But just feeling like you're not good enough, that people are gonna say, oh, like even as a Christian, there are some people that say I can't be a Christian. Because maybe they tried and then they had imposter syndrome, like, oh, I yelled at my spouse. I failed. I said that colorful word in traffic. I didn't mean to do it. And it's like, I am an imposter. But you know what? God gives, we are the recipients of grace because of Jesus. And we have to give ourselves grace to go through the journey and work through, if it's imposter syndrome, if it's real, God will let us know. But it can be very real, and it can change the trajectory of beautiful careers, beautiful callings, beautiful, peaceful lives.
One of our questions that we ask are, yes, Michelle just popped up for us, FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Yeah. And Michelle is still with us. She's just behind the scenes. So for those who are watching, you get to see we'll see comments and information popping up at the bottom. So yeah, she put up their imposter syndrome for us. And, one of the questions that we ask comedians are, you have this laugh support that we ask about, who is there for you, but has there ever been a time that you felt like you didn't have support or had a lonely moment where it felt like that nobody got it?
No, not with the comedy, not because the people that believed in me. I'll tell you what the lonely moment was alone with myself.
Mhm.
They were consistent. I'm trying to think. No, there were people that I didn't know very well that would say, you're doing what? Like they didn't get it. Like, cause they had never heard me. They didn't know the real me. They didn't know the authentic me.
Right.
And I remember one time we were at a party. I was talking to somebody just like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? And I told them, and they go, oh, I don't, you don't strike me as funny. And I'm like, oh, we're just talking. I'm like I'm eating a shrimp cocktail. I'm like, a foot doctor doesn't they're not a foot doctor at the party. I'm like, I'm also, and the funny thing is, it was a good chance to explain that comedians aren't always, they're not funny every minute of the day. I mean, if you're a lumberjack, you're not going to walk in someone's house and just tear apart their coffee table. Like that. I think they got it when I said it that way. But it's just, the situations like that where it was just, they were caught off guard. Like, oh, you're okay. But no, but it was more that imposter syndrome, that the versions of me, the imposter syndrome inside of me, those younger versions of me that were filled with either shame or, oh my gosh, so much doubt. Me, June, I'm all about talking and having convos with that younger version of us. And those girls, there's some versions of me, and those girls are like, you can't do that. That's dumb. Like, why would you do that? You're going to look like a show off. You're going to fail. You're going to fall on your face. So those girls, they get it now, but they weren't, those notions weren't always supportive. And that's part of the imposter syndrome. You have to, metaphorically sit down and have a conversation as the wiser, stronger, well-informed version of us. Wake up. Michelle just put wake up there. That's an acronym I use in one of my, for those that are listening on the podcast, Michelle just put an acronym up there that says wake up. And I think she wants me to talk about it.
I think she does. So tell us, Marlo, what does that acronym wake up? What does that stand for?
Well, before I say that, I just want to give encouragement to anybody who feels like they, first of all, they don't know God. I didn't know God at all. I stiff-armed God and anybody that mentioned him for many years. I was like an Israelite wandering around the mountain. And my husband, actually, we met on Match.com. We got married. He was a believer. I was like, please don't talk to me about it. You're making me mad. Don't do it. And so, but then it was just a long journey. And Michelle did hold up my book, God Sprinkles. A lot of the journey is in there. But I felt this little nudge from God to be an encourager and a comedian. And I joke that I, hung up the metaphorical phone on him, like I'm not doing it. And so I didn't. And so finally I started to realize I was already doing those things in my everyday life. I was already meeting with women in coffee shops. We were laughing, we were crying. And a woman said to me once, Marlo, you should consider doing this because it's like you were made for this. Because when I felt that nudge, the whisper was, Marlo, you were made for this. I'm like, you got the wrong number. And I hung up. So when she said you were made for this, that was a little confirmation. And I surrendered and said, okay, God, if you want me to do this, who do you want me to talk to? And what do you want me to say? So then I forgot about that prayer because our prayers aren't like a vending machine. We put the prayer in and we get the answer out right away. So a couple of years later, I was folding laundry on our bedroom floor, and our little girl, Kailani, came skipping in our room. And she said, Mommy, I want to write a story called Sleeping Beauty. And you've heard me joke, June, that I'm like, okay, I don't know how to break it to her, but the copyright laws alone are going to put her straight out of business. And I said, have we heard that story? And she said, no, Mommy, not the regular story. In my story, Mommy, the girl's beauty on the inside is asleep, not the girl on the outside. And it was a mic drop, like washcloth drop moment. And I surrendered and said, okay, I get it. I get it, God. So then I didn't know scripture. I knew nothing about scripture. And then somehow he put Ephesians 5:14 in my path. And it was one of the first scriptures I ever really learned and memorized. And I don't memorize many, but the ones that pierce my heart, I know those.
Right.
In Ephesians 5:14, perfectly enough, is wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine his light on you. And that couldn't be more perfect because I know, June, that we can often be walking around this world with our eyes wide shut, like the walking dead. and spiritually dead, and in our heart and our mind and our soul. And that is the beautiful journey that he started me on. So I went the next day and wrote a talk called Wake Up, and right there in the Starbucks. And it is a joy. It's a joy of my heart to be able to share that message. It's an acronym for all of the different steps that I offer, encourage women to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so let's talk a little bit about let's talk about God Sprinkles. Let's talk about your book a little bit. I have it. I've read it. I've bought it. I've gifted it to people. I recently got to reach out to you and tell you that I had a family member who reached out to me about reading it.
Thanks, June. You blessed my heart when you sent me a picture of your underlined words and your circled words. That blesses my heart because Jesus and I just sat there together. He's giving me the courage to write the stories when I had that imposter syndrome. But thank you for that. Thank you for your support, love and support on that.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, one of the people that I sent the book to, they're much like me. You were talking about your family earlier and some difficult times. My dad he's lived with me for a month after having open heart surgery. Yeah. And we were sitting at the table talking about humor and talking about comedy. And my dad said to me, we have always used humor to smooth over the rough places in our life.
Yes.
And it was such a visual to me. Like I literally could see the water going over the rocks, the rough places, and how, my dad's just in that statement was so profound and deep to me. And I realized that that's what my family has done. We've used humor for some really, really rough places in our life. And so what speaks to my heart that might not speak to someone else, I get overwhelmed in the daily devotional books and stuff that are like serious, 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 spiritual, serious, serious, serious. Now sit down and, it is the humorous stories. It is the ones that are like, what? Wow, look what God did. And that's why, your book has so much humor in it that it makes it digestible for me. It makes it easier for me to process. And the person that I sent it to is a family member who's same thing, funny, just uses humor and that type of stuff. And so tell us a little bit about the stories in your book and where this. So the title is God Sprinkles. Mm-hmm. The cover is gorgeous. It's got sprinkles and hot pink, which everybody knows is my favorite color. And so, yeah, tell us how that came about.
Oh, well, okay. That is there's actually a chapter in there called Lucky Dip, and it does share the genesis of the whole story. And it just a lot. I mean, it took me 12 years to write that book. And part of that 12 years was going, wait, me write a book? And there's beautiful scripture in Corinthians that talks about how he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And it just took me a long time to overcome the imposter syndrome. But I finally, surrendered and said, okay, yes, let me write this. And it was quite the journey, June, because when I felt that little nudge, I would turn around like, who are you talking to? Like Danielle Steele or Nicholas Sparks is standing behind me because I've always joked and said, I'm not a writer. So an encouragement to anybody that feels called and you're not a writer, you don't know, God will sit there with you as an author. And, I joke often that if anybody meets Jesus before I do, and he has Doritos on his white robe, that's me, my baby, because he sat with me right next to me when I was eating all my snacks. And Michelle doesn't realize she's on. She has to be holding my book.
Wow. So for our listeners, Michelle just popped on. Her audio is still not working well, but she's truly engrossed in an amazing book called God Sprinkles as Marlo continues to speak about God Sprinkles.
I have to take a picture, but yes, I will continue to talk. But that's that book. Like there's a couple of stories in there that women write me about the most often. There's several, but the two are Wake Up and Stupid Girl. Stupid Girl addresses a lot of imposter syndrome, and but it was a journey of faith, believe me. And there's many times where I'm like, this is dumb. I'm sitting at my writing table talking to my best friend who is my editor also, and it was like, why am I doing this? This is dumb. I would call David and just be in tears. Like I can't get through this. And it was a lot of fear. So, but it is a beautiful journey. I'm so thankful to have that book completed because I want to just tell every person I meet they'll say something and it reminds me of one of the stories, and you can't elaborate every story. So I'm very, 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 very thankful to be able to glorify God with that book and to have shared his stories. And the tagline is called The Supernatural of God Revealed in the Natural of Every Day. And it's the sprinkles, the things we call the coinky dinks, the, oh my goodness, did that just happened? And I thought I was kind of like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when my faith journey started with Nemo in my garage. And I'm like, how can this be? And then I heard a pastor talking about the word providence. And providence is it's in a nutshell, the supernatural of God revealed in the natural of every day. So I knew they're for real. They're for real.
Well, it's definitely touched my life. It's definitely touched my family and friends who've had the opportunity to read it. So I think that's really awesome that you took this, comedy. We talk about stand-up comedy, but also the ability to weave that into a devotional as well, because I think a lot of times when we talk to people who started out in stand-up comedy, we think that's the only way it can be used is on the stage, but it can be used in books. It can be used in just general conversation every day with people. When you make the guy at the grocery store laugh. I did it the other day. I told Rhonda Corey, we like to mention Rhonda Colson Corey as often as we can, but I told Michele and Rhonda, I said, I just left an open mic at 7 a.m. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, it was at the oil changing place over my Toyota Camry when something crazy was happening. And the people there were like, having a serious moment, and I did like 5 minutes of stand-up. Now they didn't know I was doing material.
Right. Yes, you're trying out some stuff, or it just comes up, right? And every day. That's why we hear a lot of comedians say, do you write your own comedy? People have asked them that, and we all say, no, we live our own comedy.
Yes.
It's every a Rhonda Corey moment. Michele just put that on the screen.
Yes, it was a Rhonda Corey moment on the Laugh Sport podcast. Yes.
We love Rhonda. She's another support too. She's yes. I love my girls. I love my tribe.
So I love that you said we don't write it, we live it. That's right. Like, we are, I think most of us are people watchers. A lot of us just love people and the quirks and the things that go on in our life. And we bank that. Now we have a lot of people who are comedians, some people who are really just starting out. And one question that we ask is that, is there a piece of advice that it could be recent advice or something that someone gave you right out of the gate that you've kind of hung on to and has been a really helpful piece of information that was given to you along the comedy journey?
Oh gosh. Yes. Where do I begin? I think the first, I've got two that stand out. One is when he called me and I was terrified and hanging up my phone on him. I was just absolutely terrified because one of the fears, because, I'm on the coach side of what I do. I'm all about the triggers that then lead to, us retreating. But one of the fears was speaking on stage. Kind of like I felt like Moses, who stuttered, and I'm like, what?
Oh yeah.
So, but I was terrified and I was retreating for many years, not moving forward. And I remember a pastor was at church. He was talking to the whole group of us, the whole congregation, and he said, if God's calling you to do something and you're fearful, get over yourself. It's not about you. It's about the people's lives that you can affect. And I did the buckwheat from the Little Rascals. That look on my face was like, yes. Wow, that was beautiful and so impactful. And that changed the trajectory for me, because you know what? I'm also a recovering people pleaser. But in that moment, I was able to say in my soul, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this out of the idol of, just being on a stage for me. And when I can think about other people and helping their hearts in some way. And then the other thing is, what if I bomb? And, as a coach, I like to do the what ifs. They'll say, but what if? And I'll say, yeah, great. Let's put a value on that. What if? What if you do? What if you do? What if that's part of your story? What if that's part of your testimony? And anytime I've had, if on stage, if we bomb or, I've had times of speaking where I just completely locked up, I wouldn't be able to speak to aspiring speakers and comedians if I didn't have that story in St. Louis absolutely freezing. I wouldn't be able, there might be an audience member because we're there to serve with craft and glorify God. And if we choke on stage or we mess it up or we forget our line, you know what? There might be one person in that audience that is terrified and they see you make a mistake and you don't die in the moment.
Right.
That may inspire them. So those are my two.
Yeah, that's you. You know what it makes me think of is like, I mean, I think about, okay, the disposition. If, because I've seen comedians who have frozen, I mean, they've literally asked the audience, what was I talking about? You know, like, and then see them after, oh, Michelle's trying to poke me about my book.
Michelle is so, I love her. You guys, I'm just taking pictures. I want to see that again, Michelle. That was so cute.
But you know that, like you said, that can be, that's ridiculous. That can speak volumes to people of how you react in a moment that looks like failure.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be a person of faith, right? That they're looking at it as a person of faith. And I've seen people just plow out the back door or be angry or have nothing to say to anybody. And there is a difference when you see somebody survive that and then still have this like positive spirit. When I was in middle school, I had this friend, Joe Lynn. And they had just opened the middle school, right? We were the first class to get to go into the middle school. We were 8th graders, so we were going to be running the school.
Yes.
And we were cheerleaders. And it was a real life pep rally at this middle school. And, you know, when you're that age, everything is the biggest moment ever because it's the first for everything, right? So they do this pep rally and they call out the girls basketball players and the boys basketball players and the girl cheerleaders. And then they call out the boy cheerleaders and they call us by name and it's got the hype music and all that. And we run out. And if you were a tumbler, you did back handspring, whatever. And I remember I came out and did a toe touch, the big cheer thing. Here comes Jolynn and she is running wide open, has the pom-poms in her hand, and decides to do a cartwheel.
Oh my God.
She wasn't a tumbler. As soon as those pom-poms hit the floor, she straight on Superman across the gym floor because you can't tumble with the pom-poms still in your hand.
She didn't do the math on that one.
Yeah. So it literally was like in a movie.
At her, but I'm laughing. I'm putting myself in that situation going,
oh, no, everyone was laughing at her. It's middle school kids, right? You could hear the screech of her skin and her legs go.
Oh my God. Well, she inspired somebody to go, okay, I can do that. And she's
I could be a cheerleader. But here's what she did. She hit the floor, this eek, and everybody laughed and then got quiet. And she jumped up, started laughing hysterically, and went, "Let's go Raiders!" And she ran off laughing at herself. And I was like,
they will never forget that performance. More than any other. They will remember that. You just told the story how many years later? See, and I'm all about stories. Our stories, they shape us and they inspire others. So I love that story. Yes. So you guys show up and no matter what, do the dismount like Mary Catherine Gallagher.
Yes, exactly. I love Mary Catherine Gallagher. Just full on, just stuck the landing. Yeah.
That is such a good story, June. I wanted to say too, with anybody that they have fear, like we're talking about, you're scared you're gonna what if I mess up on stage? What if I, and I, by the way, you guys mentioned Barn 45, and I know that Michelle put the barn45.org up there on Facebook, but I love being a part of that on Wednesdays. I just want to say you can join us Wednesdays at 9 Eastern. We talk about the book of Genesis, and it's just girlfriends having coffee. But right now we're studying Genesis. We're studying Abram. And I love what God said to Abram. And this is what an encouragement for comedians or people that are making their way. One of the imposter syndromes or one of the fears can be, oh my gosh, I have to make a name for myself. If I put myself out there and I don't have all these likes or followers or laughs or whatever it is right away, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. And what God said to Abram is, I will make your name great. And when you do it with a servant's heart, you're glorifying God in your craft. He will, if and when, make your name great. Maybe it makes your name great on a big stage. Maybe he just makes your name great. And the only way that needed to show up in your life is just to yourself in the mirror, where you can look at yourself and be your authentic self and love yourself. He will make your name great, even if it's just to you. But he will make our name great. I think that's one of the other, I would scoot that to the top of the advice. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about making your name great, because then it's like in the Tower of Babel, that story, you know, they're like, we will make a name for ourselves. And it wasn't based on God. And so that, I love that. Just let him craft the weave. Girl, you know, I'm all about a good weave. He will craft the weave, and trust in him to make your name whatever he wants it to be.
And we see Michele the Mime. Michele has popped in. She's looking in the mirror and she's seeing herself. She is famous to herself. She feels good about herself. She's kissing herself in the mirror, my friend.
I love Michele. I just love this. Yeah, for people who can't see, she popped in, she was holding up a mirror. You guys, my trauma went to, she was holding up a mirror. I thought she was maybe plucking a chin hair, because that would be me. I thought, she's got that magnifying glass out, girl.
So even in the delay, even in the frozen moments, Michele can still come through and bring some. Oh gosh, she is plucking a hair.
She's plucking the chin hairs. Yes, she. I love that she actually had tweezers. Maybe she's pretending.
Yeah, I promise. If you said pogo stick, if you gave her long enough, she'd show up with a pogo stick. She has everything. Michele is a woman who needs nothing. She has it all. I
want to raid the prop shop over there at the VanDusen house. Oh my God. Has everything.
Can you imagine though? She's a new grandma. She has a grandbaby, a beautiful baby named Mia. And can you imagine what that's going to be like growing up with a grandma like Michele and all the fun things that she has to play with? Like
all the Legos. Michele loves Legos. She will be building Legos. She sends me Nemo. She sends me Nemo Legos, pictures of them all the time. But you know what? Michele is proof that grandmas don't look like grandmas used to look. She's so young and youthful, and yes.
Well, but she also just wagged her fingers. So she's also proof that just because you're my grandbaby doesn't mean you get to play with my toys, because she has her own toys that the babies are not going to be able to touch, which is going to be torture. It's going to be imposter syndrome. Yes, those toys are imposters to those babies. They're not really toys. Those are Nana's toys.
And what would John Chris say if he were on here? Check your heart. Check your heart.
I think so. Well, Marlo, we want to tell people where they can find you. And Michele is now scrolling that at the bottom for us. And you guys definitely got to check out Marlo Rutz. You can find her at marlorutz.com. On YouTube, it's Marlo Rutz. On Facebook, you can find her at Reveal to Heal. I got it. It's Southern accent. Heal, Heal. Reveal to Heal with a Marlo Rutz. And on Instagram, she is Marlo Rutz. And Rutz is R-U-T-Z. Marlo, R-U-T-Z. Rutz. And guys, for sure. Now, where can they get your book, God Sprinkles? Where can they? Where is that available?
Thank you for asking. On Amazon. They will send it right to you. Yes, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate you asking. Yeah.
I love that. I love that on Amazon, you can send it to someone else's location. Like I've just recently started doing that, which is because my husband I would be like, order this from Amazon, but I've been able to get the book and then just ship it to a cousin or to a friend. And so that's super cool. You know, one of those things that you can do. So there it is. God Sprinkles. You see Marlo on the cover of it with a little cupcake with the sprinkles going up into the air. I absolutely love the cover of this book.
Oh my gosh.
It's fun and it's beautiful. You look gorgeous on it. And I really highly, highly, highly recommend, even if you go on Amazon, you'll see I'm pretty sure I gave it a 5-star review. So
yes. Yeah. And if anybody reads it, it is so nice. It really does bless my heart when people leave reviews, and it blesses other people too, because I don't buy anything without reading the reviews. That's why I have a relationship with my onion chopper. That's because of all the great reviews. I just want to say about that cover, June, when you read the book, there's a chapter, which is where I am right now in the cubby hole in our basement. And right over here is the stage. And that cover was shot on the stage. Our daughter Morgan shot that cover for me. She shot that picture. So it's really extra special that it was the picture was taken right here in the cubby hole with a cupcake from a local bakery.
Yes. And listen, folks, we're about to the end of the interview, but you can read all about the cubby hole and how Marlo actually created a comedy club in her basement that has now become something that was dual purpose. What started out as a comedy club, God has been able to use in multiple different directions. And there's amazing stories about, you can see if you're watching the interview, you can see in the back, the cubby hole sign that she has. There's a story for everything. That's what's amazing about being a story, having a storyteller friend. There's a story for everything. There's a story about that sign, and you will be absolutely blessed by Marlo's book, God Sprinkles. Marlo, we are so happy that you were on here with us today. Technical difficulties and all, we know that you understand. You've been there, you've done that. You do this thing on a platform as well, and it is what it is. But we made it happen, and Michelle still is the best co-host, even when she couldn't speak with us today. Still the best co-host ever. And she says, what's that? Thanks for listening. Okay.
Listen, she's a true comedian where you can make people laugh and you don't even open your mouth. She makes me laugh just watching all the things she's doing and how she's doing it. So I love it.
Yeah. So this will be an episode that definitely need to listen to and to watch. And where can they watch it? I will tell you. If you would like to watch the Laugh Support podcast, you can find us on Vimeo. You can find us on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV, and of course on YouTube. And you can also listen to the Laugh Support podcast anywhere that you find your podcast, on all major platforms, my friend. So definitely go out. And if you want to see Michele VanDusen's comedy, well, you got to find her. You got to find her on michellescomedy.com. You can find me at JuneColsonComedy.com. And of course, we're on Instagram and Facebook and all of those other platforms. Well, Marlo, that's going to be it for this episode. We're going to go ahead and
honor. Thank you, girls. I love you.
Yes, and we're going to go ahead and close out again one more time. God Sprinkles on Amazon. Y'all go get it. And then shoot me a message. Tell me how much it blessed you, and I'll share it with Marlo too. All right. We love you guys. That's it for this episode of the Laugh Support podcast. As always, Jesus and Junebug loves you. And really, if Michelle could speak, she would give you that tagline that I tried to get her to do all season last season. What would Michelle say? Jesus and Junebug loves you. And Michelle would say, Little Michelle and the Messiah want you to take it higher. There it is. Bye, y'all.